In the middle of the 18th century, when the world moved slower and every distant land felt like a mystery, a king named Aldrin ruled a wide and quiet kingdom known for its gentle rivers and long fields of golden grass. His castle stood on a hill of gray stone, surrounded by towering walls that had seen centuries of storms and celebrations. Aldrin was not the kind of ruler who sat far from his people. He walked often through the villages with only a small guard beside him, listening to farmers, craftsmen, and travelers who passed through from distant regions. The nights in his castle were peaceful. The sound of footsteps echoed softly in the long halls, and the torches flickered against tapestries showing scenes from other cultures, dancers from the east, warriors from the northern ice lands, musicians from warm southern islands. Aldrin loved cultures, languages, and stories from faraway places. But he had never truly traveled beyond his own borders. The world outside his kingdom felt enormous, like a giant sea he had not yet crossed. One quiet evening, as rain tapped lightly against the windows, a messenger from the western desert arrived at the castle gate. His clothes were dusty, and he carried with him a small wooden box wrapped in cloth. When Aldrin opened the box, he found a map filled with symbols and drawings unlike anything he had seen before. The messenger told him it came from a distant kingdom where people lived in homes made of clay and painted patterns on their faces during moon festivals. They wanted peace, but also understanding, an exchange of stories, languages, and traditions. Aldrin was fascinated. He invited historians, advisors, and scholars to study the map. For days they filled the castle with discussions, speaking about the Western culture's songs, dances, and ways of writing. Aldrin imagined the warm winds of the desert brushing against ancient stones carved with stories and languages older than his own kingdom. That night he stood on the high terrace of the castle, looking toward the horizon and imagining all the kingdoms beyond it. A month later, another visitor arrived, this time from the cold northern region. He came with snow still clinging to his boots and brought carved wooden tokens representing his people. They lived in great wooden halls, hunted across frozen lakes, and told stories by fires that burned through long winters. Aldrin listened to the visitor talk about the northern belief that every mountain had a spirit watching over travelers. Aldrin wondered how many things he had never learned, how many cultures lived quietly across the world without ever touching his own kingdom. The more Aldrin learned about other lands, the more he felt a soft restlessness inside him. He wanted to understand the languages of these distant peoples. He wanted to walk through their markets, hear their music, and see their traditions with his own eyes. But kings did not leave their castles easily. Their crowns were heavy, their responsibilities rooted deep in the soil of their homeland. Still, Aldrin believed a kingdom could grow not only through power, but through understanding. So he sent envoys, travelers, scholars, and trusted knights into the world. Some went west to the desert kingdom, carrying gifts of wine and tapestries. Others traveled north with warm cloaks, ready to stay through winter and learn the northern tongue. They crossed mountains, rivers, and forests, each journey building a bridge between kingdoms. As months passed, Aldrin received letters written on strange types of paper, some thin like silk, others rough like bark. The letters described new foods, new customs, and new beliefs. One scholar wrote about a festival in the desert where people played drums until sunrise. Another wrote from the north about glowing lights dancing in the sky like drifting spirits. Aldrin treasured these letters more than gold. He kept them in a long wooden chest beside his bed so he could read
them every night before sleeping. In time, people from other cultures began to visit Aldrin's castle. Desert musicians played soft melodies that echoed through the stone halls. Northern craftsmen carved animals and spirits into wooden beams. A painter from the eastern islands created murals on the castle walls showing oceans filled with colorful boats and floating lanterns. The castle slowly transformed into a meeting place of cultures, where languages mixed like streams joining into one river. Even villagers noticed the change. Merchants from different kingdoms stood together in the marketplace, sharing spices, fabrics, and stories. Children learned small phrases from foreign travelers, laughing as they tried to mimic new sounds. The kingdom became peaceful, not because it was strong, but because people understood one another. Aldrin watched this with quiet pride. One evening, as torches glowed softly and musicians played gentle music in the courtyard, Aldrin walked alone through the hall filled with tapestries. The old tapestries of battles seemed heavy and tired compared to the new paintings filled with colors, stories, and cultures. Aldrin realized that a kingdom could be powerful without swords, simply by opening its doors to the world. As years passed, Aldrin grew older, but his curiosity never faded. He continued reading letters from faraway lands, each one describing a different world with different dreams. One letter spoke of a distant empire with gardens that never lost their color. Another described people who sailed for months following only the stars. Aldrin read these stories slowly at night, letting the smooth rhythm of the words guide him into sleep. His people remembered him not for wars or conquests, but for connections. They said he was the king who reached beyond his own land, who respected cultures and languages, and who believed every kingdom had a story worth hearing. After his final days, travelers from every region came to honor him. Desert riders placed their carved stones near his resting place. Northern elders lit small fires, letting the smoke drift into the sky as a sign of respect. Musicians from the islands played the gentle songs he loved. In those moments, people who had never met each other, people speaking different languages and wearing different clothes, stood together in complete harmony. Aldrin's kingdom continued to grow in peace long after he was gone. His castle, once quiet and gray, became a home of cultures. Rooms were filled with scrolls written in different languages, shelves with artifacts from every land, and courtyards with trees brought from faraway coasts. Travelers visited not for trade or treaties, but simply to share stories and learn from one another. The rivers of the kingdom flowed calmly under the sunlight. Children ran through the markets where languages mixed in the air like birdsong. Elders sat outside their homes listening to travelers speak of new kingdoms across the sea. Life moved at a gentle, soothing pace, carrying with it the legacy of a king who believed in understanding. At night, the castle windows glowed softly as candles burned behind them. The wind carried the smell of spices from distant deserts and the freshness of northern forests. And even though Aldrin was gone, his spirit lived quietly in every traveler who crossed the kingdom's borders, in every story told by the fire, and in every peaceful meeting of cultures beneath the wide 18th century sky.